$259 sounds a lot for a pair of earphones. But then you consider that people pay that price for Apple AirPods Pros, for example, noise cancelling headphones and gaming headsets, of course. But those products boast great levels of convenience. So what does a wired pair of IEMs have to offer? Better sound quality, right? Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, IEM fan and degenerate gamer. I want to give a massive shout out to Linsol, links in the description by the way, for sending out these RAPTGO X HBB HOOK-X IEMs. Links to Linsol and where you can buy these IEMs in the video description. You might have noticed the stupid name for these IEMs, I'm calling it stupid now, so here's a brief explanation. There was already a pair of IEMs called the RAPTGO HOOK-X, these were good, but a headphone reviewer called Hawaiian Bad Boy, also known as Bad Guy Audio Reviews, decided to collaborate with RAPTGO to make them even better with some tuning. And of course, the XHBB part of the name is the fact that it's a collaboration. So from now on, I'm going to be calling them the HOOK-X's, despite the fact these are the HBB model, because I don't get paid by the syllable. And for clarity, just like the 7Hz Zeros, which I actually reviewed, I recorded the piece to camera literally 10 minutes ago. Like those, I used the K5 Pro from FIO, which is an audio interface. I also used the Audient Evo 4 to test, and I also used the Google Pixel USB-C DAC thing on my ThinkPad. The HOOK-X's are high-end. $259. They come in a really nice package with the included case, 3 tips for the very nicely braided 2-pin cable, which we'll get onto a little bit later, a case of several tips including silicone and foams, and the IEMs themselves. I recently reviewed the $20 7Hz Zeros, the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of money. The unboxing experience of the HOOK-X was a big step up in terms of the experience. The IEMs themselves are pretty big, which could be an issue for some first-time users. You do eventually get used to them, and because they're made of metal, they are a little bit cold the first time you put them in your ear in the morning. This is something to watch out for if you have sensitive ears, but I found it actually felt quite nice. The reason that these things are so big, and forgive me because I'm not an audiophile, neither an audio sound engineer, so I'm just going to read what's on my phone now. There's a lot of stuff packed into these HOOK-X's. These have a 14.2mm planar driver, which is, compared to a dynamic driver, a whole diaphragm that moves back and forth instead of just a magnet. And it has a piezoelectric driver, which is well above my pay grade, but from what I understand, this handles the higher frequencies. Anyway, these are far more complicated than those $20 7Hz Zeros that I reviewed the other day, which had just a basic single dynamic driver, and that's why the HOOK-X's are so big. Before we get onto the sound quality, I want to touch on the cable quickly because it's a really nice item in my opinion. It's not a dedicated third-party cable that you're gonna, soon to go and buy third-party and add to your IEMs, but I think for something that's included at this price range, given the sound quality and the rest of the bits in the box, it is really nice. It's this woven fabric cable terminating in a 2-pin connection, meaning that you could swap it out if you wanted to, or use this cable on other IEMs. It comes with 3 different tips, meaning that you can use these balanced with the 2.5mm and 4.4 connectors. I've been using the 3.5mm non-balanced connector since I don't have any balanced outputs to try this with. All 3 connectors, the cable and the IEMs, fit nicely into this included case. It's not a high-end case, it's very basic. The design on the front looks a bit cheap and nasty, but it keeps them well secure and well out of harm's way, and is how I've been carrying them around in my backpack. Time for sound quality, and this is why you're here, of course. These things sound fantastic. This graph, which I found from a third party, I did not make this myself, sources will be in the description. It shows you the frequency response curve, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of sub-bass and mid-bass, so if you're a bass head, these are pretty good for you. Sub-bass is the stuff that you feel, and mid-bass is more the stuff that you hear. This is a pretty warm sounding IEM, as they say in the audiophile world, but it has plenty of detail and crispness in the treble and high end as well. There have been reviews out there that called the original HOOK-X's quite fatiguing and too much detail in the high end. I definitely didn't find that here. I played a fair amount of games with the Hook-X's, the HBBs of course. I also listen to a lot of music, and over the extended periods of time, sort of 4 or 5 hours at a time, I didn't feel, especially fatigued with these IEMs compared to any other or headphones that I've been used to. I'm not particularly into super high-end details, for my music listening. For games, that's kind of a different story because you do want detail there. But in the music listening experience, I didn't find these. I'm sure that's Hawaiian Bad Boy's tune on there doing its magic, but they do sound warm with some detail, but not overly so. For some context, the Sennheiser IE300s were my favourite IEM before these came in, and whilst they might still provide a little bit more bass and punch, they don't sound as wide and as full, and that might be a little bit audiophile-y in the description there. What it basically means is that with the i300 you feel like the music is here, and with the Hook-X HBBs the music feels out here, feels bigger. You feel like you're part of something versus the music playing in your head. I believe I just knocked the mic, I do apologise. Here's a good example, London Grammar's Hey Now. It is a really nicely recorded track, aside from the quality issues I found in the FLAC files anyway. Basically, there's a lot of sub bass when the beat first drops for the first time. You get to hear the voice of the singer, who's a female, and then you also have this really deep sub bass, and it sounds quite good. If you're into your bass and you've not heard that track, I would recommend trying it out. Really nice song actually, and good album overall, but it really does illustrate the fact that you get a lot of sub bass and you get detailed highs as well. Other music that I used include the Cinematic Orchestra's To Build a Home, Planet Earth 2's soundtrack, that's a really good soundtrack, and of course the Arcane soundtrack from the League of Legends series. They all sound incredible through the Hook-X's. And as cringy as this might sound to some of you, if you're not used to this kind of level of immersion and sound, you feel the music more than you would do with a basic set of true wireless earbuds or anything like that. To say you feel the music is a bit cringe, but it's just the way the frequencies sort of play out. You hear more of it, you feel like you're more part of it. And again, I haven't been paid to say nice things about these, it's just an experience that you might not have experienced before. And if you're coming from Oracle Mark IIs or SA6 Ultras, this isn't going to sound as good as those, but it's pretty wild if you're not used to this kind of quality. Listening to pop and hip hop, it's still great on these things, they sound amazing, but it's in those aforementioned tracks and in the really wide stuff that they distinguish, decent headphones from really good headphones and IEMs. And of course, I tried to use FLAC files where possible to pick out the details and differences. For gaming, esports or not, the resolution and the detail is there, it's crisp, but I do feel like because you're so immersed in all the other frequencies, compared to the $20 IEMs I reviewed last week, I believe, you'll notice that this doesn't pick out those details. It does separate them, of course, but it doesn't necessarily, I would say, elevate those frequencies in the same way that the 7Hz do. What that means is you're going to get sort of a more boring sound out of the 7Hz, but in that sense it means you're going to be able to pick out footsteps and stuff easier. With these, you are using these for sort of single player immersive games. I have played a fair amount of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Warzone, CSGO and a bit of Overwatch with the Hook-X's, and I have to say it's a good experience, but the 7Hz I think are just tuned a little bit better for esports games than these. But if I was going to buy just one set of IEMs and I could spend the $20 on the 7Hz or $250 on the Hook-X's, I would buy the Hook-X's because they are so much better for music listening and movie watching and all that other stuff as well as just gaming. Are these the best IEMs I've tried? Yes, I would say these are probably even better than the IE300s. They're more comfortable, they come with a nicer package of stuff, the cable is far nicer, far nicer. The sound feels fuller, wider, you feel more immersed in it, and I will leave links to where you can purchase it from Linsol in the description. So big recommendation, really do appreciate Linsol sending these IEMs out because they're really good fun to try out and just, experience. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do leave a like, comment, all that stuff. Links will be in the description to my podcast and other crap. Links will be in the description to my podcast and all my social medias. Massive shout out to my Patreon for being continually supportive. I'm Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Peace.